The night was silent. Only the distant barking of dogs could be heard, mixed with the faint buzzing of the streetlights that dimly lit the narrow street. Officer André, 34, was patrolling alone through the most forgotten neighborhood in the city. He had already witnessed everything in that area: fights, thefts, abandonment. But that night, something different was about to mark his life forever. As he slowly drove the patrol car, a soft sound, almost like a whimper, caught his attention. At first, he thought it was a cat, but when he parked and turned off the engine, he realized it wasn't. It was a cry. Fragile, muffled, insistent. A cry that didn't sound like an animal's, but a baby's. With his heart racing, André got out of the car and followed the sound. He reached a dumpster, full of broken furniture, grocery bags, and cardboard boxes. The sound was coming from inside. He pushed the bags aside with his hands, his heartbeat growing stronger with every second. And then he saw. Inside a damp, filthy cardboard box lay a baby. A black baby, with delicate skin and closed eyes, shivering from the cold. He was wrapped only in an old rag, already soaked by the dampness of the night. André froze for a few seconds. His chest tightened with a mix of pain, outrage, and compassion. "My God," he murmured, his voice breaking. He knelt down, carefully picked up the baby in his arms, and felt the tiny body trembling against his uniform. The crying stopped for a few moments, as if the baby had found a little bit of safety in that improvised embrace. Tears came before André could hold them back. This wasn't just a rescue on duty. It touched something much deeper within him. He had grown up in a humble family. He knew what it felt like to be discarded by the world, but he had never imagined someone could abandon a being so defenseless in such a way. "I'm here, little one. I'm here," he whispered, trying to warm the baby against his chest. Immediately, André called Central Dispatch for backup and an ambulance. While waiting, he took off his own uniform jacket and wrapped it around the baby, holding him close to share his warmth. Every second felt like an eternity, and he just rocked gently, as if it were instinct, as if he had been born to protect that child. When the paramedics arrived, he handed the baby over with great care, but his eyes never once looked away. The officer followed them to the hospital, refusing to return to his patrol. He remained in the waiting room, pacing back and forth, anxious, as if he were already the boy's father. Hours later, the doctor came out of the room with the news. "He's going to survive. He's weak, but strong enough to fight. It's a miracle he was found in time." André took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. But at the same time, another feeling was born: responsibility. He knew that from that moment on, he couldn't just walk away. That child had already changed his life. Before leaving, he approached the heated crib where the baby lay. The boy, his eyes half open, stirred slightly, now calmer. André extended his finger, and to his surprise, the tiny hand grabbed it firmly. A simple gesture, but one that pierced his heart like a silent pact. In that instant, without needing to say it out loud, he knew he would do everything to protect that baby. From that moment on, he was no longer just a police officer doing his job. He was a man who had found a son where the world had only seen trash. The days that followed were different for André. Every morning, after finishing his shift at the precinct, he drove straight to the hospital to see the baby. No duty could stop him. No exhaustion could hold him back. As soon as he arrived, he washed his hands, put on disposable gloves, and asked the nurses for permission to hold him. The boy, still without an official name, already recognized him. All it took was hearing André's firm yet gentle voice, and his little eyes would open, his crying would stop. "It's like he knows you're his father," one of the nurses once said with a discreet smile. Those words echoed in André's mind. Father. At first, the idea seemed absurd. Him, a single police officer, working long shifts, with no close family, taking on a baby? But the more he thought about it, the more he felt he couldn't ignore the calling inside him. That's when he decided he would fight for custody of the child. The first obstacle. The following week, André went to the Child Protection Council. He explained the whole situation, his involvement since the rescue, and his desire to legally take responsibility. The counselor listened attentively, but was straightforward. "I understand your goodwill, but the process isn't simple. The baby will be placed in temporary foster care while we try to locate relatives or a host family. André felt his chest tighten. The thought of the boy going to a shelter, without the warmth of arms to hold him, tore him apart. With all due respect, ma'am, I can't allow him to be treated as just another case. I was there that night. If I hadn't heard that cry, he wouldn't be alive right now. I am the only family he has. The counselor sighed. I understand, André, but the law is clear. You'll need to start a provisional custody process, and even then, you'll face many steps. There's also the financial aspect, your professional life. The judge will want guarantees. It felt like a bucket of cold water. But instead of giving up, that only strengthened his resolve. A name and a promise. That night, André returned to the hospital, sat by the incubator, and watched the baby sleep. The little one breathed deeply, his movements soft, and a wave of peace filled the officer's heart. I don't know how long this will take, my son, he whispered. But I'm going to fight. You won't just be another number. You won't be forgotten. That's when a name came to him. Samuel. It meant asked of God. Samuel, that's what you are. A gift the world tried to throw away, but that God placed in my arms. And in that very moment, he made a silent promise. He would never abandon that child. Prejudice. Days turned into weeks. André filed the paperwork, faced interviews and evaluations. In each of them, he felt judged not only for being single but also for the racial difference. The baby, black. Him, white. Time and again, he heard veiled questions. Do you think you'll be able to raise a child of a different color than yours? Aren't you afraid he'll suffer prejudice for being raised in a family outside his cultural background? André always answered firmly, though indignation burned in his chest. What matters isn't skin color. What matters is love and the care he'll receive. And that I can guarantee. A flame that never goes out. Despite the barriers, André didn't waver. Samuel was slowly growing, gaining weight, opening his eyes more often. Every toothless smile he gave was like fuel to keep fighting. Still, a shadow hung over the story. The Child Protection Council warned him. We are investigating to find the biological parents. If they are located and show interest, they will have priority over custody. André's heart froze. The thought of losing Samuel to those who had left him in the trash consumed him with fear. But a voice inside kept repeating, I will not give up. No matter what happens, I will fight until the end. What he didn't know was that this fight was about to grow even more intense, because the baby's parents would soon be found. The news came on a sweltering summer afternoon. André was leaving work when he received a call from the Child Protection Council. Mr. André, we have located the baby's biological parents. We need to speak with you. His heart raced. It was the news he had feared most, but he knew it would happen sooner or later. With every step toward the room where the meeting would take place, the weight on his shoulders grew heavier. What if they wanted the boy back? What if the law really sided with them, despite everything? When he entered the room, he found two people sitting side by side, but distant in both expression and posture. The young mother looked nervous, her eyes downcast, hands trembling. The man, on the other hand, held his chin high, arms crossed, with a defiant stare. The counselor began the conversation. André, this is the couple who are Samuel's biological parents. We need to hear their side before making any decisions. Upon hearing the name Samuel, the young mother lifted her eyes for the first time. They were brimming with tears. He has a name, she asked, her voice quivering. André took a deep breath and replied, Yes. I call him Samuel. It means asked of God. For a moment, she closed her eyes as if the words had struck her soul. But before she could speak, the biological father interrupted coldly. The name doesn't matter. He is our son, and we are taking him back. The words cut the air like a blade. André remained firm, but his stomach churned. With all due respect, sir, it was you who left him in the trash. I found him that night, nearly dead. If I hadn't been there, your child wouldn't be alive now. The man gave a cynical smile. I did what I had to. It wasn't my problem. The room fell silent. The mother, ashamed, let a tear fall. Then, in a sudden burst of courage, she confessed, "It wasn't my idea. I was alone, without family, without help. He abandoned me at the hospital, came back days later, and said we couldn't raise the child. I cried, begged, but he convinced me there was no way out." André looked her in the eyes. For the first time, he saw true pain. It wasn't just weakness, it was desperation. But the confession only fueled his anger toward the man who remained unmoved. "You threw away your own child," André said firmly. "And now you have the audacity to want him back?" The counselor intervened, trying to calm the room. "Gentlemen, understand. Legally, biological parents have priority, as long as they demonstrate the ability to care for the child. We will need evaluations, reports, and possibly a court hearing." André clenched his fists, containing his rage. "Ability? You call that ability? Abandoning a helpless baby in the trash? That's not a mistake. That's a death sentence. I will not allow Samuel to return to the arms of someone who discarded him as if he were nothing." The mother began to cry quietly. The father stood up, staring at André. "He is my blood. Nothing will change that." André, standing, stepped closer and replied firmly, unwavering, "Being a father isn't just about blood. Being a father is protecting, caring, loving. And you did none of that. I have been more of a father to Samuel in 2 months than you have been since the day he was born." The atmosphere was heavy, tension almost unbearable. The counselor ended the meeting, saying the case would go to court. As André left the building, he took a deep breath. Fear consumed him. Fear of losing Samuel, of seeing him returned to neglect. But at the same time, a fire burned within him. Now he had even more reasons to fight. He knew the legal battle would be ruthless, but he also knew he would do anything to keep Samuel from returning to a past of pain. And deep down, something told him that this fight wasn't just for the custody of a child. It was a chance to show the world the true meaning of being a father. The courtroom was packed. Every seat was filled with curious eyes. Family members from other cases, lawyers, and members of the Child Protection Council. André entered, gripping the folder of documents tightly, but his heart raced so fast it seemed to echo Samuel's own cries, the baby cradled in the arms of the social worker beside him. The judge, a stern-looking man, opened the session. "We are here to decide the fate of Samuel, the baby rescued by André Oliveira. We will hear all accounts before making a decision." The first to speak was the biological mother. With tears streaming down her face, she described her desperation. I was alone. I had nowhere to go. I didn't want. I never wanted to hurt my child. Please give me a chance." The father, sitting rigidly, stated, "He is my son. I have rights over him." André stood slowly, looking the judge in the eyes. When he began to speak, his voice was firm but heavy with emotion. "Your Honor, I am not here to dispute who is the biological father. I am here because fate called me to protect Samuel. He was alone, abandoned in the trash, with no chance to survive. Since then, I have cared for him, fed him, comforted him, loved him. He calls me father, and I accept that responsibility. What he needs isn't blood, it's love and security." The lawyers for the biological parents tried to rebut, citing legal rights and birth certificates. But the judge, attentive to the details, interrupted. "What we see here is not just a matter of paperwork. This is a matter of bond, care, and the child's well-being." The courtroom held its breath as the social worker presented reports about Samuel. She described his days with André, how the baby responded to his touch, smiled at him, and how he had become healthier and calmer under his care. Every word reinforced the same point. André was, indeed, the guardian Samuel needed. The biological father tried to speak, but he couldn't hold André's gaze. The mother, sobbing, only repeated, "I just wanted him to have a chance." And there was the undeniable truth. Samuel already had a family. Not by blood, but by heart. The judge took a deep breath and struck the gavel. After reviewing all the facts and testimonies, this court decides to grant permanent custody of Samuel to André Oliveira. It is established that the child's well-being takes precedence over any biological tie. Absolute silence filled the room. André felt a wave of relief, and tears streamed down his face. He approached Samuel, now free to officially call him his son. The baby, in his arms, opened his eyes and let out a smile. André smiled back, holding him tightly, as if he would never let him go. As he left the courthouse, André felt the weight of months of anguish lift. Samuel slept peacefully, protected by the embrace of the man who had chosen to be a true father. On the way home, André looked down at the little boy. "We're starting a new life, Samuel. A life full of love, joy, and safety. I promise I will never leave you alone again." And so, between tears and smiles, the boy who had once been left in the trash found not just a home, but a future full of hope. For André, the police officer who became a father, and for Samuel, the promise that even in the darkest circumstances, true love always finds a way to win. The dark past was left behind, and a new beginning finally emerged on the horizon.